In today's world, the obsession with living a long and healthy life is pervasive. We're constantly bombarded with advice to eat the right foods, exercise regularly, avoid unhealthy habits, and keep up with medical checkups. From a young age, we're taught that the key to happiness is longevity, and that every action should aim to optimize our health. But in the process of chasing a longer life, many of us lose sight of what truly matters: living in the moment. As we age, especially in our 80s and beyond, the question arises: does all this striving for longevity really lead to fulfillment? Are we sacrificing joy in the pursuit of extra years, only to find ourselves living longer, but less happily? Rethinking the pursuit of longevity. A new perspective. What if I told you that one of the most respected authorities in geriatric psychiatry, someone who has spent more than 3 decades studying the elderly, suggests that once you hit 80, it may actually be time to let go of these stringent rules and restrictions? It might sound counterintuitive at first, even reckless. But this advice comes from someone who has spent years researching the psychological and emotional aspects of aging, and who believes that, in the latter stages of life, the key to living a truly joyful existence is to embrace life on your own terms, rather than obsessing over every health risk. This expert, who has worked with countless elderly individuals, recommends indulging in life's pleasures, rather than denying yourself for the sake of adding a few extra years. He suggests that after reaching a certain age, if you want to eat your favorite foods, you should go ahead and enjoy them. If you've always loved a glass of wine, treat yourself. And if you have a craving for something you used to enjoy, whether it's a piece of chocolate cake or even a cigarette, this expert argues that there's no reason to hold back. By allowing yourself to savor these pleasures, rather than living in fear of the consequences, you might actually enrich the quality of your life. At first, it's easy to dismiss this advice as reckless. After all, smoking and excessive drinking are often associated with negative health outcomes. But this geriatric expert argues that we need to reconsider our priorities when it comes to aging. He believes that constantly striving for health perfection and placing pressure on ourselves to follow a strict regimen can become a psychological burden. The stress of living a perfect life might ultimately outweigh the benefits of simply letting go and enjoying the present moment. The burden of perfection. How the obsession with health can hinder happiness. Living a long, healthy life is often framed as a checklist of do's and don'ts. Avoid fatty foods, get regular exercise, take vitamins, don't smoke, stay socially active, and so on. For many, this list becomes a source of anxiety and stress, a never-ending pursuit of self-discipline. The fear of illness and death can cloud our minds, leading us to constantly question whether we're doing enough to ensure a long life. Yet this constant obsession with perfection can weigh us down in ways we don't always recognize. Every indulgence, whether it's a late-night snack or a skip in exercise, can leave us feeling guilty, as if we're sabotaging our future. That guilt can chip away at our enjoyment of life, creating a vicious cycle of stress. And for what? To live a few extra years that may be filled with more worry, restriction, and missed opportunities for joy? It seems like a cruel paradox. We fear an early death, but in the process, we may end up with a life that is anything but joyful. What if we let go of that fear? What if we acknowledge that aging is a natural process, and that enjoying life, including the simple pleasures, might be more important than obsessing over every potential health risk? This expert suggests that in your later years, once you've made it past 80, it's time to stop trying to avoid the inevitable. It's time to embrace life for what it is and take the pressure off yourself. The wisdom of acceptance, facing the inevitable with grace. One of the most radical suggestions put forth by this expert is to view illness not as a terrifying setback, but as a natural part of aging. Illnesses like cancer, for example, are often viewed with immense fear and dread. But this expert challenges us to rethink our approach. Instead of living in constant fear of disease, what if we simply accepted it as part of the journey? This acceptance doesn't mean giving up on health or neglecting self-care, but rather finding peace in the understanding that disease and aging are inevitable. The fear of illness, particularly the diseases we associate with aging, can be a powerful motivator for many people. It drives us to exercise more, eat better, and take every supplement available to ward off disease. However, for some, this mindset becomes a source of perpetual anxiety. The fear of developing dementia, cancer, or heart disease can overshadow everything else, making it difficult to truly enjoy life. But by accepting these realities with grace, we can free ourselves from the burden of constant worry. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means acknowledging that while we can control some aspects of our health, we cannot prevent the natural progression of aging and illness. Instead of living in fear of what might come, we can focus on making peace with it. There is a sense of liberation that comes with embracing the truth, that aging and disease are not punishments, but natural processes. Letting go of restrictions, the freedom to live on your own terms. If you are in your 80s or approaching that milestone, the message is clear. There's no need to keep stressing over your health. After all, you've made it this far, haven't you? You've lived a full life, worked hard, raised families, and faced countless challenges along the way. Now it's time to live for yourself. It's time to let go of the excessive restraints that have governed much of your life, and instead, focus on what brings you joy. Imagine what it would feel like to wake up every day and not worry about whether you're following the perfect health routine. Instead, think about what makes you happy. Perhaps it's enjoying a leisurely breakfast, savoring a cup of coffee, or spending time with friends and family. The freedom to enjoy life without the weight of health-related stress is, in many ways, the key to living your 80s and 90s, and beyond, with joy and contentment. Living your later years without the pressure of perfection opens up a world of possibilities. You can embrace new experiences, try new hobbies, and savor moments of connection with loved ones without the constant fear of doing it wrong. This is the message that this expert, a leader in the field of geriatric psychiatry, shares with his patients and readers. That life beyond 80 can be a time of incredible joy and fulfillment, but only if we let go of our rigid expectations. The quality of life versus the quantity of life. Ultimately, the question we must ask ourselves is this: what truly makes life worth living? Is it the number of years we add to our lives, or is it the quality of those years? The pursuit of a longer life is a noble goal, but it's also important to consider how we spend those years. Do we want to live longer at the expense of our happiness, or do we want to embrace every moment of life, regardless of how many years we have left? Living well into our 80s, 90s, and even beyond is an incredible gift, but it's only meaningful if we are able to enjoy it. The true secret to aging well is not about avoiding every health risk or striving for perfection. It's about embracing life on your own terms, finding joy in the present, and accepting the inevitable with grace. As we journey through the challenges of aging, let's focus on what really matters: the freedom to live fully, no matter how many years we have left. In conclusion, aging doesn't have to be a time of fear and restriction. With the right mindset, it can be a time of freedom, joy, and acceptance. So let's embrace the wisdom that comes with age and live the best years of our lives, on our own terms. The average lifespan, a double-edged sword. In our country, the average lifespan for men has reached an impressive 81 years, and for women, it's even higher at 87 years. At first glance, these numbers appear to be a triumph of modern medicine and healthcare, showing that we are living longer and more health-conscious lives. However, when we examine these numbers more closely, we begin to realize that the story is not as simple as it seems. While men may live an average of 9 years beyond their healthy lifespan, and women around 12 years, this extra time often comes with a significant cost, relying on the care of others and dealing with health complications that diminish the quality of life. Longevity alone does not guarantee a happy or fulfilling life. In fact, many people experience a decline in health as they age, and those extra years can be filled with illness, dependency, and a gradual loss of independence. The goal should not be just to live a long life, but to live a long, healthy life. A life where the aging process doesn't leave you physically or emotionally burdened. In this light, it's important to consider what it truly means to age well. What is the point of living for several extra years if those years are filled with suffering, isolation, and a lack of joy? The challenges of life beyond 80. The most common age at death is now around 85 for men and 90 for women. These numbers are not arbitrary, but reflect a significant trend in the aging population. Many individuals do live longer than this, and some even surpass the century mark. However, this added time doesn't come without its share of challenges. Aging isn't linear, and as you transition into your 80s, you will likely face a multitude of obstacles, both physical and emotional, that can make the experience of growing old vastly different from the previous decade. The 80s are an entirely different phase of life compared to the 70s. This decade can bring changes that are sudden and unpredictable. Even if you are in good health today, tomorrow could bring unforeseen challenges. You might find that your energy levels decrease, or that everyday tasks become more difficult. This time of life is often marked by fluctuating health conditions, including the onset of serious illnesses like cancer, strokes, heart attacks, and pneumonia, all of which can feel like looming threats. As you grow older, it is natural to experience more frequent doctor visits, medications, and medical tests, leading many individuals to feel that their bodies are betraying them. Cognitive decline is another prevalent concern as you age. Doubts about memory and mental sharpness often arise, and there is always the fear of developing conditions like dementia. These uncertainties about your health can cause feelings of anxiety, confusion, and loss of confidence in your own abilities. The reality is that the later years of life can bring many health issues that were not present in earlier decades, and the fear of these issues can take a significant emotional toll. For many, the loss of a spouse or close friends in the 80s also adds to the emotional burden, contributing to feelings of loneliness, grief, and despair. In light of these difficulties, it is easy to feel as though aging is something to fear. The physical and emotional challenges of growing older can feel overwhelming, as though an invisible wall is slowly closing in around you. The realization that your time on Earth is limited can be unsettling, but it is important to remember that aging is a natural and inevitable process. In fact, it is possible to find meaning, joy, and peace even as you face these challenges. The key lies in how you approach aging and how you choose to view the inevitable changes that occur with it. The importance of acceptance in the aging process. One of the most profound insights for aging gracefully is the idea of acceptance. Rather than fighting against the changes that come with age, it is essential to embrace them. Accepting that your body and mind will naturally change, and focusing on what you still have rather than what you have lost, can bring a sense of peace and fulfillment. Instead of focusing on the limitations and challenges, it's crucial to shift your perspective and appreciate the opportunities that still exist. Acceptance doesn't mean resigning yourself to a life of complacency or giving up on your health, but rather acknowledging that certain things are out of your control and choosing to focus on the positives of your current situation. This mindset shift can be incredibly powerful, as it empowers you to find joy in the present moment rather than dwelling on fears of the future. Consider how two individuals in their 80s might approach their lives. One person might spend each day lamenting the things they can no longer do, constantly feeling frustrated by their limitations. This individual might feel angry at their body for betraying them, or at life for being unfair. On the other hand, another person might choose to embrace the positives, focusing on the things they can still enjoy, like spending quality time with family, enjoying hobbies, or even savoring the simple pleasures that life has to offer. Which of these two individuals is likely to experience a greater sense of happiness and fulfillment in their old age? It is not necessarily about what you can or cannot do, but about how you perceive your situation. The more you embrace what you can still experience, the more you can unlock the true joy of aging. Cancer and aging. Living with illness. Without fear. One of the most surprising truths about aging is the prevalence of cancer in older individuals. In fact, most people over the age of 80 have some form of cancer in their bodies, whether they know it or not. Dr. Hideki Wada, a renowned expert in geriatric psychiatry, discovered this startling reality through his research. After conducting autopsies on the remains of about 100 elderly individuals, Dr. Wada found that many of them had been living with cancer in their bodies without ever knowing it. In fact, cancer had often remained undiagnosed and did not significantly impact the individual's quality of life until their death, which was usually from other causes. This discovery has profound implications for how we think about aging and illness. The idea that cancer is an immediate death sentence is something that society has ingrained in us. However, as we age, cancer behaves differently. Many types of cancer in older adults progress slowly and do not cause significant harm or interfere with daily life. In fact, the majority of elderly individuals who have cancer will likely die from other causes, such as heart disease or infections, rather than cancer itself. What does this mean for how we should approach cancer as we age? The findings of Dr. Wada suggest that, for those over the age of 80, aggressive cancer treatments like surgery or chemotherapy may not be necessary or even advisable. These treatments can be more harmful than the cancer itself, especially for those who are already frail or weakened by age. Instead of focusing on aggressive treatment, Dr. Wada advocates for a more measured approach, where doctors and patients focus on comfort and quality of life rather than chasing after treatments that may ultimately do more harm than good. The radical idea: aging without fear of cancer. Imagine being 80 years old, discovering that you have cancer, and being told that there's no need to worry. Rather than undergoing chemotherapy or surgery, you are advised to live your life just as you have been, focusing on the things that bring you joy rather than the fear of the disease. This might seem like a radical idea, but it's one that is grounded in research and experience. Dr. Wada's research challenges the conventional wisdom that cancer requires immediate action at all costs. For many elderly individuals, the key to a fulfilling old age is not the pursuit of aggressive treatments, but the acceptance of their circumstances and the enjoyment of life's simple pleasures. This doesn't mean that cancer should be ignored or dismissed, but rather that the approach to it should be different in the elderly. When you reach your 80s or beyond, living a life of joy and happiness is more important than fighting a disease that may not significantly affect your day-to-day life. For older adults, it's more important to prioritize peace of mind, comfort, and happiness, rather than focusing on the pursuit of treatments that may not improve quality of life. The unseen burden of health worries. We live in a society where health is often equated with restriction and discipline. For decades, we are told to avoid foods that are considered unhealthy, like sugary treats or salty snacks, to keep a lean body, and to exercise regularly. These teachings are instilled in us from a young age and persist well into middle age. However, by the time you reach your 80s, the rules change. The body is not the same as it was in your 60s, and the pursuit of perfection in terms of health becomes less important than finding balance, contentment, and joy. A person in their 80s has likely already lived a long and full life. They've worked hard, endured challenges, and have had their share of life's victories and defeats. At this stage, continuing to place heavy burdens on themselves by following strict diets, undergoing excessive exercise routines, or limiting the pleasures that once brought them joy seems unnecessary and counterproductive. In fact, it can lead to heightened stress levels, which, ironically, can shorten lifespan and decrease the quality of life. Instead of chasing an idealized version of health, it's time to focus on living in the present, relishing simple pleasures, and celebrating life as it is. The emotional weight of restriction. Dr. Hideki Wada, a seasoned expert in geriatric care, has spent years in hospitals working with elderly patients. Through his experience, he observed a crucial reality. Many elderly individuals who focus solely on avoiding potential health risks, whether by restricting their diet too much, excessively worrying about cancer, or taking unnecessary medications, actually end up losing something far more important: their joy. In his clinical practice, Dr. Wada came to realize that many elderly individuals who cling to restrictive habits out of fear or societal pressure find themselves missing out on the joys that life has to offer. Dr. Wada suggests that living in constant fear of illness or overloading oneself with restrictions not only adds mental strain, but also physical harm. The stress that results from trying to prevent something inevitable, like aging and the diseases associated with it, can increase one's risk of illnesses such as heart disease and depression. The key to healthy aging, he believes, lies not in stringent caution, but in the balance between health and happiness. This includes enjoying the pleasures of life without excessive fear or worry. Changing needs, embracing new sensibilities. As we grow older, our bodies undergo changes that may seem puzzling at first. For example, in our younger years, we may have been taught to avoid too much salt, sugar, or fat, believing that such indulgences would harm our health. But in old age, the body's needs change, and it's important to adapt to those changes. One of the most striking examples of this shift is the change in appetite that often occurs as we age. Elderly individuals tend to crave more salt than they did in their younger years. This craving is not a mere indulgence, but a natural response to the body's changing requirements. As we age, our kidneys lose some of their ability to regulate sodium levels in the body. This means that elderly individuals may excrete more sodium than they should, leading to a deficiency. The body compensates for this by craving salty foods, which isn't something to be feared or avoided. It's simply the body's way of signaling that it needs more salt. Salt plays a vital role in many bodily functions, including regulating blood pressure, supporting nerve transmission, and maintaining muscle function. When you're in your 80s, your body might not respond to salt the same way it did when you were younger, but that doesn't mean you should deprive yourself of it. Similarly, as we age, our need for certain nutrients can increase or shift. The body, in its wisdom, may signal these needs through cravings that are often misinterpreted as indulgences or poor health choices. For instance, people in their 80s may have a stronger desire for comfort foods, which may seem unhealthy by modern standards, but these cravings are often a result of the body's natural process of aging. By understanding these signals, elderly individuals can make decisions that align with their current needs without fear or guilt. It's about listening to the body and giving it what it requires for nourishment, rather than rigidly adhering to outdated dietary guidelines that no longer serve you. Finding balance in enjoying life. Living beyond 80 years is, for many, a time of reflection. When you're in your 80s, you've lived through decades of social changes, personal triumphs, and losses. You've had the opportunity to experience what truly matters in life, and that's where the focus should shift, toward making the most of your remaining years in the most joyful and fulfilling way possible. It's not about fighting the inevitable, but about embracing the present and living each day with purpose. Dr. Wada advocates for living joyfully, even with the awareness that some form of illness may be present in the body, such as cancer. As surprising as it may sound, many people over 80 are living with cancer, sometimes without even knowing it. Studies show that cancer often progresses slowly in elderly individuals and doesn't necessarily present an immediate threat to their health. In fact, some cancers in older people remain dormant for years, causing no noticeable symptoms. This fact serves as a powerful reminder. Fear of cancer should not dominate the mindset in the later years of life. What matters more is how you respond to life. Whether you choose to embrace each day with gratitude, savoring life's simple pleasures, or whether you let the fear of illness overshadow your happiness. In many cases, elderly individuals who obsess over preventing cancer or other diseases may end up missing out on the joys of life. They might avoid their favorite foods, restrict their intake of alcohol, or deprive themselves of the activities they love, all in an effort to preserve their health, even when their bodies no longer require such drastic measures. But as Dr. Wada points out, at the age of 80, you may already be living with cancer, and the focus should be on enjoying life rather than fearing the future. The importance of enjoying simple pleasures. In many ways, the pursuit of happiness in older age is about appreciating the small things, the simple pleasures that bring joy without stress. Whether it's enjoying a glass of wine with a loved one, indulging in a favorite dessert, or taking a leisurely walk in nature, these moments are precious. They are a way of reconnecting with the joy of life, no matter the health challenges that may arise. Unfortunately, many elderly individuals spend their later years depriving themselves of these pleasures out of fear or guilt. They restrict their diets, follow rigid exercise regimens, or avoid social activities in the belief that it's necessary for their health. But as they do so, they miss out on the very things that make life meaningful and enjoyable. This is a critical mistake, one that can diminish their quality of life and even accelerate the decline of their health due to stress and emotional isolation. Instead of living in constant worry about the next health crisis, it's crucial to focus on what can still be enjoyed. Aging should not be seen as a time to fight or resist life's natural changes, but as an opportunity to embrace it fully. It's about letting go of fear and guilt, enjoying good food, savoring moments of connection with others, and finding peace with the fact that life is finite. After all, in the grand scheme of things, life isn't about counting the number of years we have left. It's about how we live them. The power of acceptance and joy. Living joyfully and without unnecessary restraint doesn't mean abandoning all caution. It means finding a balance. It means recognizing that your body has different needs at 80 than it did at 60, and that's okay. It's about finding the courage to let go of the rules that no longer serve you, and embracing the opportunity to enjoy life's pleasures while still taking care of yourself. By accepting aging, you allow yourself to live more fully. When you focus on the present, savor each moment, and let go of the need to control every aspect of your health, you unlock a path to greater peace and happiness. You stop living in constant fear of illness or regret about things that can no longer be changed. Instead, you embrace the reality of aging and make the most of the time you have left. You cherish the people around you, appreciate the beauty of life, and live with gratitude for each day. In the end, life after 80 is about thriving, not merely surviving. It's about letting go of excessive worries, living authentically, and finding joy in the everyday moments. It's about living for yourself on your own terms, and not allowing society's expectations to dictate how you should spend your final decades. So, enjoy the things that bring you happiness, cherish the relationships that bring you comfort, and live fully. This is the secret to a truly fulfilling old age.